Hello, everyone, and welcome back to episode 151 of the Salvaggio and Cratty Sports Podcast. Here for you on Wednesday, July 19th, 7:16 p.m. After a week off, I was on vacation. I believe, Ryan, were you in the Cape as well?
I was not. That was the week prior.
Week prior.
Yep.
But little summer week off. News was a little slow too, so it's not like we missed anything crazy, which is good given, us needing a week off with my vacation. So all worked out, but we're back in the swing of things. We'll be starting with football today. And before we get into anything football related, Ryan, how are you?
I'm good. How was your vacation?
I thought you were gonna say I was good. I was
Yeah,
like, oh, no,
I had to
what
catch
happened?
myself there. I flubbed that up right out of the gate, so we're off to a hot start here.
Yeah, it's all good. We're dusting the cobwebs off.
Mhm.
But without further ado, the disappointing news with the Patriots came this past week in the form of DeAndre Hopkins signing a 2-year deal with the Tennessee Titans.
Yeah, disappointing is one way to describe it. Aggravating if you're like me and you watched the TikTok that I made about it when I got home from work that Sunday, I believe it broke. Like I said in that, in case people missed it, if you saw it, if you agree with it, if you don't, like again, I just think it comes down to the Patriots falling into their old ways of thinking that, hey, this is still 2012, 20 to whenever, 2015, the glory days of the Patriots, where we can nickel and dime these guys and try to get them here on our own price tag and not have to pay these guys, what they're worth or what they might want to be worth. Because look, anybody you listen to, any of the experts, the analysts that cover the team, people that, around football, kind of all had the same thought process as the Patriots, could have signed this guy if they wanted to. They were in on him. They checked in on him multiple times. I think Jeremy Fowler had the report that, the Patriots stayed in consistent contact.
Nine times too. Like every
Yeah.
other day for a while. He was like, the Patriots have strong interest. Like,
Mhm.
yeah, we know. You told us
we got
yesterday.
it. Yeah.
Like, I get it, but like we know.
But that's the thing. It's like, okay, so there was interest there, and it just Tennessee obviously wanted the player more. And again, we found out afterwards the Patriots, whether you believe it or not, Jimmy Stewart of Felber Maz had, he heard that the Patriots were $5 to $6 million short of the guaranteed money for Hopkins. Phil Perry kind of had the same thing. It felt like the highest bidding team was going to get DeAndre Hopkins, and that ends up being the Titans. Like it's just the same old story with the Patriots that they think they can still operate like they have Tom Brady and like they're still the kings of the AFC and the kings of the NFL. And it's just not the case anymore. And like I said in that TikTok too, to me, it kind of just proves the point. People will always argue, oh, well, I know Brady's not here, but people want to come play for Bill Belichick. They want to learn from the greatest head coach ever. That DeAndre Hopkins had a chance to do that and didn't. He decided to go play for Mike Vrabel, still a very good football mind and a very good head coach. A weird situation in Tennessee where you kind of look at it, you're like, what is this team really doing? Are they rebuilding on the fly? Are they going for it? Like they obviously traded away AJ Brown last year. Could have just signed him instead of giving 2 and 26 to DeAndre Hopkins, like pay for that receiver. Obviously a run heavy offense. So
keep Brown and then sign Hopkins and then
that too.
Both.
So it's a weird situation. Like I don't know how much better Tennessee on paper is than the Patriots. Obviously this move helps, but that's the big takeaway for me is like the Patriots again, just kind of still falling into their own ways. If we're the Patriots, as soon as, we're interested in you, you'll just come play for us. And that's just not the case anymore. And until they figure that out, it's going to be the same. And obviously we'll get into a little later with some names they've been linked to now. Maybe they'll be able to, get lucky with, but that's where I'm at. And it's another frustrating move. We talked about it before too, of like, this guy could have just helped from the fact that you don't really know what you have in the wide receiver room right now with some injuries. I know Juju the other day, I'm pretty sure he said he's going to be good to go, but there's still injury concerns there. Same thing with Tyquan Thornton. Does Devontae Parker, does he bounce back, stay healthy? What's Kendrick Bourne? So there's still questions there. This would have freed up a lot of, helped a lot of things out. And the Patriots just whiff on another move that they could have really used and really helped them, and especially, help Mac Jones.
Yeah, I have less of a reaction to it than you because as excited as I did get at times, I did temper expectations because it's a big name guy.
I did not. I texted you that.
Known for like always landing these guys, always, being in the mix, going to bidding wars, expecting to win them. That's just not who Bill Belichick is, and he proved it here. Sounds like from varying reports they were short on guarantedied money. Not willing to go as far as Tennessee was. So
I think they were more tied into incentives and stuff like that too, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. That's what I kind of feared. And I mean, like losing out on a player like this sucks, but I'd definitely, obviously be more upset if it was like we're talking a little bit more prime DeAndre Hopkins here.
True. It's fair.
And I still think there are things to like. If health is in their fortune this season, in the receiver core, can Juju get back up to speed? Can Tyquan stay healthy? Can DeAndre Hopkins regain his form? If they can, it's a pretty decent receiving core, not the biggest names. Kendrick Bourne hopefully will be a bigger factor. So my focus now is just shifted to what this receiver core we do have can accomplish, and hopefully outside of them, the running game will be efficient like it was with Stevenson mainly last year, and Gesicki can add another weapon to the mix rather. And Hunter Henry can bounce back a little bit because he wasn't quite like dominant consistently. I think there's more he can offer. So kind of just gotta, it's a tough pill to swallow and move on. So it sucks. I would have loved the player, but it was one of those situations I feared would happen. They wouldn't get in a bidding war. They never really do. And he goes to the inferior team with an inferior quarterback, whatever. It's his decision. I don't know if it's going to work for him, given the Titans' recent history with star receivers with Andre Johnson, Randy Moss, and Julio Jones. Which is funny because some people seem to think the Patriots should go after Julio Jones now, which is funny because after they lost out on DeAndre Hopkins, I was like, watch, they're going to go after Julio Jones, or people are going to speculate they should get him because that's just what's going to happen. And so
and like less than 24 hours, that report came out. But I'm glad.
I think there's potential for things to work out well in the receiver group, and I do still think there's a chance they sign Dalvin Cook. So at least in that event, they would get one weapon.
Yeah, that's true. I'm glad you brought up the first point you did when you started your side of the argument, and that was where I was kind of pissed off too. Was I was more mad at myself as well because like I texted you when it happened. I'm like, I'm stupid me for thinking that, like you said, it's Bill Belichick. They never get into bidding wars with people. So how realistic was DeAndre Hopkins? We talked about it on the show. I, for whatever reason, thought this was going to be the one. Like, finally, they break through with something. It's a guy that, it seemed like they clearly had mutual respect for one another. Obviously, Hopkins is talent. Hopkins seemingly likes Bill Belichick. So you thought it would have been a match made in heaven. And then, again, like, stupid me for thinking that they would actually, like you said, get into a bidding war and outbid. Like, and I was just caught up on the process, too. Like I said earlier, like you just mentioned, an inferior team. Like, I don't know how I want to word this. Like, how much of a draw, I guess, is Tennessee going to the season where you're sitting there, you're going, okay, who's like DeAndre Hopkins' boat? Who's going to play quarterback there? Like, I feel like week to week it could change. Tannehill. There were reports that Malik Willis was doing well in camp or the workouts and stuff, but you still look at Will Levis is probably ahead of him in the depth chart just because the draft pick that Tennessee used on him. So there's plenty of questions there. Like, that would have, if I was DeAndre Hopkins, maybe had me shy away a little bit because I'm like, all right, at least in New England, I know it's Mac Jones. Like, he might not be the greatest quarterback on the planet, but there is some certainty there. And there's some security that, like I said, 4 weeks into the season, you're not going into your third quarterback because the first two guys have stunk like you might have in Tennessee. So who knows? But like you said, like, if for all the right reasons, that the Patriots were never going to get into a bidding war with this player. You never should have let him leave the building. You should have had some sort of deal in place when he first visited to begin with, just to not have this go out and be, a prolonged thing and maybe sweeten your chances. But here we are. Like you said, they're moving on to maybe a running back, maybe Julio Jones. That was the report. Either was it yesterday, today, from NFL rumors that former Falcons and Bucs wide receiver Julio Jones has been linked to the Patriots. What are your thoughts there? We'll kind of start with him, stay on the wide receiver position, and then move to the running backs because there's a couple of wide receiver names that have popped up recently.
No, yeah. Julio Jones is fine at this point in his career, but not someone you should overextend for. Also, that's from NFL rumors.
True.
So I'm kind of
taking it with a grain of salt
until it gets backed up. Who I do like more is Denzel Mims, just because he's younger and probably better if you give him enough wiggle room to earn his keep here, as he never got with the Jets. There's still a chance they make a trade, but it sounds like the Patriots and the Steelers are two teams in the mix there. But if they got to trade a conditional seventh to get him, do it. I mean, who cares? I'd rather take a guy you can bet on some upside with. He's only 25. He's a 6'3" receiver, good speed for a bigger guy, than a 34-year-old guy who's over the hill. So that's where I'm at. And I'm in the camp where if you can get him on like a year or two deal, I'm all over Dalvin Cook. Anything more than that, no. Ideally, he signs a 1-year deal, but I don't know if that's super likely. I mean, there was some speculation DeAndre Hopkins would just sign 1 year with New England or Tennessee, and he got 2 years. So who knows? Cook could get 3, 4 if the team wants it bad enough. I doubt it, but I bet 3 would be the cap there. But and I mean, while we're just running down a list here, I'll give my thoughts on Leonard Fournette and Darrell Henderson too. I would much prefer Leonard Fournette. They've liked him for a long time. And I still think there's something left. Darrell Henderson doesn't impress me very much.
No.
Couldn't really take over a pretty lackluster backfield in LA and dealt with a lot of injury trouble. Leonard Fournette's dealt with his fair share of injury trouble too, but dating back to his LSU days, I've been a huge Leonard Fournette guy. I once owned a Leonard Fournette Jacksonville Jaguars jersey. So if that doesn't improve my loyalty, I don't know what will. I like the guy a lot. He's Lombardi Lenny now. He brings some, playoff pedigree, if you will. And yeah, in an ideal world, I think if they want to add, they get a guy like Denzel Mims and Cook or Fournette. Any combination of those guys would be fine. I think with or without these guys, the offense, if run correctly, can do some pretty decent things.
That's a good point.
That's the
too.
if, but it's not
big thing.
Not the if we had last year. So
yeah, you feel more certain about this year than last. Like I'm with you. Again, I'm sure plenty of fans would want the bigger name of the two when it comes to the receivers and Julio Jones. But like you said, I agree that the guy at this point's over the hill. Well, you said it. His career kind of went to die when he went to Tennessee. Couldn't really figure it out because of health problems in Tampa with Tom Brady. So I think Julio Jones, that pipe dream has come and gone. The thing with him is he might be the easier of the two to get because I can't imagine there's a lot of interest in Julio Jones compared to a guy like you said, like Mims, who's younger, more upside at this point in his career. And I'm with you. Like, again, the report comes out again, believe what you will, because we don't know if this guy's real or not in Dov Cleveland, but he said earlier that the Jets have called the Cowboys about trading wide receiver Denzel Mims to them. A source tells @Fish Sports. The asking price, as you said earlier, is a conditional 7th round picks. Seems otherwise the Jets will simply waive him. If that's all it's going to take, like the Patriots should be all in over that. You want to maybe stretch yourself out a little bit, go a 6th round pick just to, again, put yourself out there to show that you want the player.
Like real quick too, he's not going to get more looks in Dallas.
No
chance. He might not get more in New England either, but I'd like his odds better in New England. They drafted Jalen Tolbert 2 years ago. They have CeeDee Lamb and Michael Gallup.
Brandon Cooks they brought in.
Brandon Cooks, he's going to be a 4th, 5th string receiver there, unless they really like him. I think he's got more of an opportunity to break in with the Patriots than the Cowboys, and even the Steelers. They traded Chase Claypool, but they have Pickens and a couple other names I should remember, but I'm drawing a blank.
Deontay Johnson's still there, so that's a guy that's got he gets what 10 to 12 targets a game. It seems like so.
I always forget Deontay Johnson because I feel like he gets hurt a lot. Allen Robinson was the other guy they brought in. They got Miles Boykin as well, who flamed out with Baltimore as kind of a reclamation project. They drafted Calvin Austin last year, the speedy receiver out of Pittsburgh, and of course, we can never forget, even though I forgot, Gunnar Olszewski. So
that's right, I forgot about him
competing
too.
With Gunnar Olszewski,
yeah.
To compete with, so
Yeah, but I mean that move would be the smarter of the two for all the reasons you mentioned, and then again, like playing time, it seems like. Again, with the injury, just bring in somebody. You have, again, injury concerns at a position that you have been thin in the last handful of years. Like it would help a lot. And again, just give Mac Jones another weapon. On the running back thing, you gave your spiel. I'm with you. I'm out on Darrell Henderson just because, I think they need someone who's a little bit more versatile. And again, like you said, he couldn't really hack it in a pretty wide open running back room in LA last year. Fournette brings that veteran presence that they maybe want. Like you said, they've been interested in him. It seems like for now, 3 straight off seasons in a row, it feels like.
They worked him out last summer too.
That's true. Yeah, that's right.
I think I remember hearing too that even though Belichick wasn't in territory to pick him, they liked the player in his draft here as well.
That does sound familiar. They bring that up. So that could be wrong, something there as well. And like Alex Bark said too, Fournette makes more sense. He would make the most sense for the Patriots, veteran, well-rounded running back. Yeah. Like he said, could split drives with Ramondre Stevenson rather than just spell him situationally,
and won't totally take away from Pierre Strong too either. I don't think he'll be this guy that completely pushes him in a permanent RB3 role. No, I think they'll incorporate Pierre Strong, incorporate Ty Montgomery wherever. If you do that and Ty Montgomery is an afterthought, kind of outside of those three, that's not a big deal to me.
No, so, it's some
people really like Ty Montgomery. I get it, but If he's a bit of an afterthought, that's fine. Like he should be at this point in his career.
Exactly. Make him a special teams guy, have him, because I think that's what he was supposed to be when he came here last year, was more of a punt return, kick return guy before obviously Miles Bryant burst onto the scene. But yeah, I wouldn't mind Fournette
Marcus
again.
Jones.
Marcus Jones. I don't know why Miles Bryant. Yeah. But yeah, I'd be in on Fournette again, but probably the cheaper option out of between him and Cook. And again, just for the fact that I would like Cook more than Fournette, but you just saw it with DeAndre Hopkins. I think that the Patriots aren't going to, put themselves out there to sign Dalvin Cook, no matter what the number is going to be. Even though that for some reason they are the betting favorites. As I saw earlier today or the other days, I don't know. Again, like Dalvin Cook he'd make a lot of sense for them, but it's going to come down to the same thing it came down to with Hopkins. You just need to pay the guy. Most money he's probably going to sign for. I don't know what, like you said, what the years might look like, what the contract might look like, but we just saw it with D-Hop. If the Patriots don't want to sign him at a position they need more than they need running back, they're probably not going to do it for him. So I'd look to get Fournette, bring him in. Obviously, he's a guy that you can use in the passing game as well, which fits their style of play. 73 receptions last year, I think, was a career high with the 3 receiving touchdowns. Pretty much was turned into a wide receiver for with Tampa Bay with how bad their run game was last year. So you bring him in, like you said, kind of take the load off from Andre a little bit, give yourself a pretty decent 1-2 punch.
Yeah, absolutely. I hope they get Dalvin Cook at this rate. That'd be nice. They got some space for it too.
Yep.
That'd be a pretty sick duo.
Yeah.
Bill Belichick. Maybe it's just that time of the offseason, not to discredit Tommy Curran or anything, but potentially on the hot seat.
Oh, you're swinging a miss on DeAndre Hopkins. I think that kind of shed some light on it as well too. But yeah, like you said, Tommy Curran on the Rich Eisen show the other day, he had a comment saying that, quote, Bill Belichick was on the hot seat and he's been there at different levels of warmth since 2019. I think he also went on to bring up again the whole Brady leaving situation, how that went, that we're not going to get into because obviously everybody knows the story. Dov Kleeman had this comment saying that Kraft may keep Belichick around. This is from an article, that he wrote. Tommy Curran also said this, saying that Kraft might keep Belichick around long enough for him to break the all-time wins record by an NFL head coach. So kind of take that as you will. Belichick needs 19 wins, of course, and that definitely will not be reached this season. Greg Bedard of the Boston Sports Journal also wrote had some comments saying, if things are bad enough for the Patriots again this season, specifically on the offense, maybe Mac takes another step back. Does that force Robert Kraft's hand to maybe make an uncomfortable decision, an uncomfortable change? Where are you at with this? You kind of alluded to it maybe where you said it's just this time of the offseason maybe. Are you, putting anything into these comments, or are you kind of just same old stuff? Belichick and Kraft don't see eye to eye. It's what we've kind of been hearing the last half decade.
No, I kind of think it's a little bit of that time of the offseason, but at the same time, I do think there's probably some merit to this because, we're kind of waiting to take the next big step post Brady, and it hasn't happened yet, which is reasonable. You're not Mac Jones wasn't expected to come in and light the world on fire in his first 2 seasons, but honestly, when it comes down to it, I don't think you become a better football team firing Bill Belichick. So I don't like the idea of it at all. They'd have to have a catastrophe of a year to fire Bill Belichick. I'm talking
what do you
5
consider?
or 6 wins or lower. Right. If you go if you win 8 or 9 games and underachieve a little bit, I don't think you should fire Bill Belichick. I don't think you should fire him unless it's a catastrophe. I don't think there's a better coach out there you could have than Bill right now. And especially if it doesn't go perfectly well this year, that's probably partially because you have a new look on offense, a guy you're familiar with, but I think you give a guy as talented as Belichick and as smart as Belichick a little more leeway reuniting with Bill O'Brien than 1 year. But there's also the belief in the fan base, and I don't know if in the organization, that Gerard Mayo is the next guy. So maybe if they underachieve, that gives them their excuse to bring in Gerard Mayo, which I wouldn't be totally opposed to, because I think Gerard Mayo is probably a better candidate than anyone you could find. But that's, take that with a grain of salt because he's never coached in the NFL, but there seems to be belief around the team and in NFL circles and stuff that he'd be a great coach.
You got to think he's here for a reason. Turned down a couple of head coaching jobs this offseason, so that obviously raised some eyebrows of
that too.
Why you would stick around when you have actual head coaching positions that you could go take. So
it's weird, but if they fired him and didn't hire Gerard Mayo, I'd be pretty upset.
Absolutely. So. I'm right there with you because that's where I'm at. I think he's the next guy 100%. I personally would just, from partially thinking that the league may be starting to go past, if it hasn't already gone past Bill Belichick, like some of the decision making, obviously last year, as you alluded to with the OC decision, like we've knocked him enough for that. So there's part of me that's like, I want to see some sort of youth movement in here, get Gerard Mayo in here, see what he can do. Maybe that makes New England a more desirable destination again, just to say, hey, there's a changing of the guard. Maybe, you know, something, you know, different stuff's on the horizon here in New England. But I'm with you. Like they're obviously not going to fire him. You know, if they go 8-9 wins, I'm with you. You have to have a catastrophe of a season to get Bill Belichick out of here. If Max somehow takes a step back again, the offense takes a step back again this year, you know, things look as they did last year. I definitely think that question should be up is, you know, maybe you move on from him and see what you got in Gerard Mayo sooner rather than later. But as of right now, like I'm with you, it's probably at this point in the season, the Patriots just missed out on a guy they could have got literally just for money. So, you know, throw that Bill Belichick on the hot seat thing again. Some people will probably agree with you and see if that, you know, you can run with that story a little bit. That's where I'm kind of at with it. Like you said, it's just slow day at the office type of thing. Maybe someone will pick this up and run with it.
Yeah, who knows? But it is now going to be something to monitor more so than it would have been if this didn't come up throughout the season.
Absolutely.
So.
Yeah, God forbid they get off to a slow start too. Then I think you probably really start to hear the rumblings of this. Like Gerard Mayo's here. He's on the sideline waiting. You know, if you don't want to make him right away, Bill O'Brien could step in midseason if you want to do something really drastic. But I'm sure there'll be people, like I said, if the Patriots get off to a tough start, that'll be kind of clawing at those storylines.
I agree. Some other NFL notes. We have Jack Jones breaking his silence on Twitter. Y'all Twitter's birds. I'll never argue with nerds. Me and John not the same. A little bit of poetry there. That's the latest we've heard from Jack Jones. The next big day for him in court will be August 18th, a little less than a month from now. And we have turmoil in the running back market. Josh Jacobs, Saquon Barkley, and Tony Pollard all do not sign long-term deals before the Monday deadline, creating a stir around how running backs are paid. Pollard will play on the tag. Saquon doesn't want to sit out, but he knows he might have to. Will not be at camp. The last running back to sign an extension for $10 million or more was Nick Chubb 2 years ago in 2021. Austin Eckler spoke out and said he wants to hear from the owners. He was clapping back at people on Twitter as well. That's why they aren't getting paid. And said, you poked the bear and you're going to have to make us do something. According to Mystery Man Dov Kleeman as well, veteran running backs have organized a group text chain during which they have been commiserating about the current market at the position and brainstorming regarding strategies for improving the situation per Pro Football Talk. As of Monday, plan of action was to complain about the situation on social media, which some of them did. We saw Saquon throw out a tweet as well. Ultimately, they need the league and the NFL Players Association to recognize the problem and fix it. Le'Veon Bell probably had the highlight of the situation.
This was hilarious. Yeah.
Bring some levity to the situation after apologizing to Steelers fans on like Instagram or whatever a couple days ago. He says, Disney, a long time ago, 1998, taught me a valuable lesson in sticking together. Go watch A Bug's Life.
Great
It'll
movie.
put in perspective the running back market. Absolutely. The running backs are the ants. I'm Flick, the inventive ant. I took all the damage from the grasshoppers, parentheses, owners. So a lot to take in.
I like how you had to specify Flick, though. Like, for the people that have seen the movie would probably know who Flick is. You didn't have to put like basically the main character in parentheses. Like, but
what do we think about this? Because ultimately, I'm not surprised. I didn't expect any of these guys to sign deals. Saquon wants to show the team his value. I don't know what Josh Jacobs is going to do. But I mean, Josh Jacobs' price tag has to be higher than the three of them as the rushing leader.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I get their qualms about the running back market, but we've seen over the years that you can get a starting running back within a year or two in like
the most interchangeable position in sports. You can find running backs off the street.
Hopefully the Patriots don't find themselves in the situation in 2 years with Ramondre Stevenson, because I quite like Ramondre Stevenson, but it is an interchangeable position. It is proven that way. It is probably going to keep trending that way. And like I said, I get their gripes, but I kind of have a hard time seeing the owners budging on this one.
No, they're not going to, because they could argue like they'll just argue that, okay, because there's some offensive lineman. I can't remember the guy for the Cowboys that's got a gripe on his contract too. Oh, you have in the L line, Zach Martin. The owners will argue that or if they want to be dicks about it, they could be like, well, if you want to look at it honestly, the guys in front of you are the ones that are opening the holes for you. They're the ones that are putting in the work so you can get through. So yeah, there are going to be guys like tackles and guards if they want to be specific. They're going to make more money than you. Like your position is going to make less than some. So I'm with you, but I'll stick with that to the day I die. That I think the running backs, I've said it before, I'll say it again, that they are the most interchangeable position in sports. Yes, they are, some of the flashier ones and the more exciting ones to watch, but you got to know the position. You got to know how, short, of a lifespan you have or a shelf life that you have in the game as at that position. So it's kind of a toss up right now. Like Saquon is interesting to me too. Like he doesn't want to sit out, but knows he might have to. Like, dude, make a decision. Are you going to sit out and screw your team over or not? Like, don't kind of play this juggling game of will I, won't I? And then the Le'Veon Bell.
Whatever podcast he was on too, he kind of talked about how he knows 10 million is a lot of money too. So if he has to take that 10 million, however that would work, for a year, he can do that. But it's 2 years in a row the guy's been tagged. So
yeah, that's true.
He just wants some security.
Yep.
But
it's
hard to find security for a lot of running backs.
Exactly.
2 years since someone signed for over 10 million a year.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure he's a great teammate too. I'm not going to knock the guy personally or anything, but you got to think too, it might piss him off a little bit where you go into the same offseason that Daniel Jones gets paid up to wazoo. Probably doesn't deserve to make that much money. Saquon's probably sitting there going, well, dude, I was 90% of this team's offense last year. Like, why is this guy getting that type of money? And I can't. I get, like you said, I get franchise tag 2 years in a row. So
and it hurts running backs long-term value because a lot of them, it's a very easy position to suffer a severe injury.
Absolutely,
and
yeah.
Saquon Barkley is a couple years off of a severe injury.
Mm-hmm.
That shit doesn't just go away when you're recovered.
That's what I mean. That goes into the argument again of how short of a career you could have at that position. So I get it again. It's a double-edged sword. It's you obviously want to get paid, so you have money in case your career is 4 or 5 years shorter than you expected it to be or something like that. You have a bad injury that kind of derails things. But also again, you can go find other guys if you don't want to, come down to the price tag of what the owners want to pay or guys want to pay you. So it is a tough decision and a tough spot for I think both sides to be in. You hope something gets figured out, but with the NFL and how, the owners run things, how the players go about things, it's going to be a rocky road to say the least. The Le'Veon Bell thing too, real quick on that, out of all, I feel like a lot of the Disney movies teach valuable lessons and sticking together. So I just find it funny that out of all of them, A Bug's Life is the one that he chooses.
Yeah.
Probably not a movie that people again, we both agree, good movie, but I don't know how many people would have it in their top 5 Disney movies to just kind of reference. So
yeah, I agree.
Mm-hmm.
It was pretty funny, definitely.
When I saw that, I was like, am I reading this right? He's actually quoting and describing the plot of A Bug's Life. I didn't stumble into some bizarro zone or something like that where Le'Veon Bell. Kudos to him for apologizing. I thought that was, a pretty good move for him too, basically being yeah, I fucked up. My bad.
Yeah, did you see CJ Gardner-Johnson today too? Calling
on GTA, yeah.
He was on Twitch or something, calling them Philly fans obnoxious and that he can't fucking stand them.
Yep.
That was
great week when it comes to social media and NFL players. Awesome. Not good. Real quick on that too, the Jack Jones thing. Again, I get the guy probably wants to get his side of the story out there and his word out there, but I might just stay off of social media if I was him until things, the trial ramps up, until you get some more clarity on what happens.
I gotta be honest. If his lawyer gets asked next time they go to the courthouse about that tweet, I can't wait to see what
she's going to explode. Yeah, she's going to lose it.
Oh my God, that was still freaking bizarre to think about. The thing for Josh Jacobs too, it's it sucks for him. Is you have this awesome season and you're hoping that probably gets you more money, but it also just complicates things. Because you're worth way more money than you were coming into the season. Speaking of somebody who's worth more money than they were coming into last season, Alex Highsmith today signed a 4-year, $68 million extension with the Steelers. And some other news, Zach Martin, who is announced today as the number 1 rated offensive lineman in Madden this year, which is crazy over Trent Williams. I like Zach Martin, but Trent Williams is by far the best offensive lineman in the league, in my opinion. Zach Martin, the 99 overall, is considering holding out from camp. He is scheduled to make about $7 million less than the NFL's top paid guards. And sounds like Dallas isn't very interested in restructuring, which has got to be a slap in the face, because nothing against these guys, I'm sure, for him, but they have been working on extension, or open to working on extensions with CeeDee Lamb, Trayvon Diggs, and Terrence Steele. So something to monitor with the Cowboys. It's a huge loss to their O-line, especially if you want, Dak to kind of return to form. Losing your best offensive lineman is not going to help.
No, that'll be an interesting one. Again, you got to try to get into the mind of Jerry Jones and see who he wants to prioritize more than others. And it seems like right now, the flashier the players, the wide receivers, the top corner, he's looking to more than the starting guard. Like, I don't know.
Like, Zach
exactly.
Really good, but he's 32.
That too. Yep. Older. You can probably find guards or build up guards to be pretty solid compared to like a top tier wide receiver, stuff like that. Depending on how you look at CeeDee Lamb, if you consider him a top tier wide receiver, same thing. Trayvon Diggs, pretty good corner. Number one corner is probably tough to find, or lockdown corner, stuff like that. So it's tough. And again, you never really know what the Cowboys are doing or what their kind of their game plan is. Do you see Dak? I've not just talk about real quick social media stuff or comments from NFL players. You see Dak's comment about not throwing. He's not going to throw 10 interceptions this season.
Yes, and the day he does, Twitter is going to be awesome.
Set ablaze.
3 or 4 days. It's going to be awesome. It'll be one of those days when you see like all these awesome quote tweets from one tweet's like, what's the best like this moment, or what's the wildest tweet or whatever. And then like you see quote tweets of it going viral for like 4 days. That's going to be one of them. Is Dak Prescott talking about his interception totals.
It'll be the same thing that I think happened with like NBA Twitter a couple weeks ago, where it was like, what's the biggest like I'm not him moment? And a lot of people brought it back to the Grant Williams, I'm going to hit both free throws comment. That'll be what this becomes.
Yeah, it's going to be great. Do we have any final football points?
Not that I can think of. I don't know if nothing, I'm sure something will break probably after we get out of here, but nothing on Twitter that I've seen. There was a baseball trade, but that's not football related. So
I guess one final thing, we did see Tyquan Thornton get a top 10 speed rating in Madden. He's going to be at 96.
Oh, yeah, that was the other thing. What was your thoughts on what's Ramondre Stevenson like, the 21st best running back in Madden this year?
Elliott is ranked higher than him.
So is Bijan Robinson, who hasn't played it down in the NFL yet. They get good running. Bijan, yeah. You know me, I'm not going to pronounce guys' names right on the first try.
But Ramondre Stevenson should be minimum an 85.
Yeah, well, he deserves a good rating because of everything I heard of him coming out of college. But again, like not over a guy that has played downs in the NFL and has, proven that he can play in the league. Like that's ridiculous. It just shows how. And then, who is it? Aaron Donald, again, great player, but does he really deserve a 99 coming off a year where he missed 6 games? You think so?
Because he's that good, yes. I mean, I don't think they really factor in injuries to Madden ratings.
All right. I don't know what they factor into Madden ratings because, as we know, like they completely boned Ramondre Stevenson. That's just not the Patriots fans and us talking. I feel like a lot of people would argue that as well, that, like you said, definitely Ezekiel Elliott shouldn't be over him from what the seasons the two guys had last year.
Don't get it. But we do have Red Sox talk, which isn't something we say every week. Alex Cora is putting the front office on notice.
Yeah, he's putting them on notice. And then after today's showing in the 3 games in Oakland, front office might have a clap back coming of, well, you guys did just lose 2 out of 3 to Oakland. So how much do they want to invest in this team? But no, as I said, with the Red Sox moving forward, we're never going to get too high. We're never going to get too low because as we just saw in these last, this road trip that they were on, played the Cubs, played the Athletics, and they split 3-3 when you probably should have come out of this road trip on a winning, record. But Alex Cora, he's not backing down. He wants this team to do something it looks like at the trade deadline. His comment over, I believe this came from the All-Star break. I thought it was like yesterday, but hearing Felger and Maz talk about it today, I think Felger said it was over the break. Cora said, we're in a good place, but at the end of the day, the place we like to play in October. It's not about how many prospects you have or where your farm system is. It might be number 1 or 30 or whatever. The one that really counts is how many games you play in October. That's what we're shooting for all the ups and downs. We're right there. It's not how you get into the dance. It's what you do there. So like I have in the outline, thank you to Alex Cora for, trying to push the envelope with this team. Cause right now with the way things are going and how many injuries they have and all the injury news you're starting to come out with, guys are going on rehab assignments. Trevor Story, I think is going to play either today was going to play 5 games for Portland, DH tomorrow. And then I think it was 5 on Saturday or Friday at short, then DH on Saturday, 5 more innings at short on Sunday. So he is ramping up his rehab assignment. Chris Sale's throwing bullpens. John Schreiber's on his rehab assignment. So you're starting to hear about these guys that are actually on the team right now, starting to rehab. And with the trade deadline coming, that's starting to scare me of the Red Sox instead of actually going out and doing something for this team that, yes, they've had their up and downs, but like Alex Cora has said, is only 2.5 games out of the third wild card spot behind the Houston Astros. They're right in the thick of it. Again, we've talked about it pretty much all season. The American League has been pretty average when it comes to, the back end of the playoff teams, whether that's Toronto, Houston, Cleveland's been up there. The Angels have been up there. The Yankees have flip-flopped back and forth, although their season looks like it's, on the complete downslide, which you really hate to see. I'm worried the Red Sox and Chaim Bloom are going to take the approach again of, well, we have guys like Chris Sale and Trevor Story and Schreiber and Whitlock and all these guys coming back from an injury. Those are going to be your trade deadline additions. They're not going to do anything at the deadline. They're not going to give up any sort of draft capital. And Alex Cora might be feeling that as well. And that's why I think he pushed back a little bit and kind of made the comment about basically, who cares how many prospects you have? Like, stop stockpiling these prospects, for lack of a better term of it. Maybe move some of these guys that aren't going to be here in the future. Try to get us something to win now, which again, like I said, I'm happy he's doing that. But when you lose 2 out of 3 to Oakland and, have a 3-3 road trip against the Cubs and the Athletics, maybe it makes the front office and, upper management kind of hesitate a little bit and say, well, what are you guys really going to be? Maybe we just sit back and hope we get some guys back from injuries and go from there. What's your kind of thought process on the quote itself, or, what this team is and where they're at right now?
I like it, but I'm in the camp where I'd be kind of cool with them letting
not doing anything,
be the deadline guys. Yeah, because I haven't seen enough consistency with this team to want them to go all in. I don't think it's worth it. I'm not in the camp right now where I want them to sell off, which I was like 3 or 4 weeks, like a month.
Yep, I'm with you.
But I don't want them to really do anything that crazy big. Like, if they're in the thick of things, make a couple moves. But like, you're getting Schreiber back, we can hopefully return to form, and Story and Sale hopefully at some point. You never know with his injury flare-ups. But no, like, I don't want them to go super crazy, but I do appreciate Cora, vouching for himself and wanting to have a better team around him and, beef things up and get into the playoffs, because it's a guy fighting for his job. Like, if they don't make the playoffs, he could get fired. I like where his head's at. So that's where I'm at on the whole situation.
As do I. Like I said, it's a weird situation because they're pretty much in an identical spot to where they were last year. I went back and looked it up. Finishing up the outline today, through 97 games last year, closing in the deadline, they were 49-48, fourth in the AL East. They had no shot of winning the division, 17 games back, but 3 back of Seattle for the third wild card spot, and a half game up on Cleveland. This year, 51-46 after the loss to the Athletics today, fourth in the AL East, 8 games back with probably no shot of beating Baltimore, Tampa, or Toronto. 2.5 games back of the Astros for the third wild card spot, a half game up on the Yankees, 2.5 up on Seattle and the Angels. I would have to imagine you're probably not going to have to worry about the Angels because they just can't seem to get out of their own way, it seems like.
And everybody's getting hurt.
Everyone's getting hurt. That's what I mean. Everyone's getting hurt. It's that time of the year where the Angels start to fall apart. So you kind of leave them out of the race. Seattle, they've pretty much played 500 baseball all season. I think they're 47-47 when I looked it up the other day. And as I said, the Yankees are free falling right now with how things are going for them. Terrible. So you give, exactly. You hate to see it. Terrible. You give credit where credit's due. Like I said, we weren't going to get too high. We weren't going to get too low. You said it. They've kind of been this all season. But they have played really good baseball since June 30th. They're 11-3. So again, they've given the front office something to think about. But after what happened on this road trip and what's, coming up before the August 1st trade deadline, it's a huge stretch. They have the Mets coming up for 3. The Mets have not been good. So that's a series you should be able to win. Atlanta, they got for 2 at home. Obviously, Atlanta's been the cream of the crop in the league, but the Red Sox split with them earlier in the season, so at least you show that you can play with them. San Francisco's been a nice story. You go out there for a 3-game set, so that'll be a pretty big task for the Red Sox there. And then you get 1 game against Seattle before the trade deadline in Seattle. Like I said, they're 500. The Red Sox are 2-1 against them. So again, there's some winnable teams, some winnable matchups on this schedule. That's really going to prove what the Red Sox should do, what they shouldn't do. I'm with you. Like, I'm not saying go out and get, the Lucas Giolito's, if Shohei Ohtani gets moved, I don't think he will, but, maybe if he's out there, go out and get him. Like, they're not going to make these big moves because that's just what they are. Chaim Bloom's not going to give up the draft capital for it. But if you are in it, mix in 1 or 2 moves, like get some starting pitching. I know there's plenty of starters that are due back, but, again, with the injury concerns, how especially Chris Sale. How much can you count on them to stay healthy the rest of the season? I don't really know if you can. So again, if you're in it like a game or two out of the second wild or the third wild card spot, just some names that I've kind of seen come up, some names that I'd like them to be linked in, or linked to rather. The St. Louis Cardinals, they're probably going to be sellers. Maybe Jordan Montgomery is a back of the rotation guy you could bring in on cheap. A couple of prospects, maybe something like that. Kyle Hendricks, who we just saw with the Cubs, he's on an expiring contract. He'd probably be a cheap option there, an innings eater. Same thing with Paul Blackburn. I know he hasn't been great for Oakland. And just 9 games this season in the area over 5. But again, you need a starter that can eat some innings, stay healthy. It was an all-star a couple of years ago. So he's a guy maybe you can slot in the back of your rotation. Some bullpen guys, because, there was a rumor I saw that the Red Sox may look to add, a back of the rotation piece and then a late right-handed reliever to bridge the gap, to Chris Martin and Kenley Jansen. Colorado Rockies are probably going to be sellers. Maybe you go out and look at Justin Lawrence, who's been good for them this season. David Robertson, who they've been linked to in the past with the Mets. The Mets are, again, probably going to be sellers. And then one other interesting name that I thought they may have been interested in this offseason was Michael Fulmer of the Cubs. He might get dealt, again, expiring contract. All guys you could look at, all guys that are probably going to be cheap if you want to move them in, like I said, a 1 or 2 little prospect type of deal. Nothing too crazy.
Yeah, I'm in on anybody on this list besides Robertson and Fulmer. I think, Robertson's good, but I don't know if they need a guy like him that bad. He's having a really good year. I don't know if that is a guy you want to overextend for. Do you really need a guy like him that bad in the bullpen?
Exactly. Yep.
And Michael Fulmer, this is a guy that's just underachieved and is having a really bad season in Chicago, but you could get really cheap, I guess. But other than that, I like the other guys. But I'm in a lukewarm stage with the team right now.
I don't know how you can't be anything other than that. Because again, that's right when you get into this and want to talk about, maybe they should be buyers at the deadline. They go out and play 2 games like they did last night and today, where it's all right, you throwing the ball around the infield again, making stupid errors, making stupid mistakes, getting beat by teams you shouldn't get beat by. So how much do you really want to believe in this team? But again, the rest of the American League has not been that great. They've been just as average as the Red Sox have been. So if you're right in the thick of things, if you're a game, we'll say 1 to 4 games out when it comes to the deadline, if you sit there and you do nothing again, or, make some of these buy and sell moves like you did last year, which it showed last year, the team pretty much gave up towards the end of the year. It was had guys questioning what the direction of the team was. I just don't think you can do that for a second straight year, because you're going to have the same problems you had last year. You're probably going to have some of these veteran guys, if they stick around, you heard the rumblings of, was Bogarts disgruntled? Did Martinez or Eovaldi, guys, that aren't here anymore? We talked about that before. Maybe, they were voicing some concerns about, what's going on with this team. I don't think you can go through a second season, off season, and the season like that for a second straight year. So you got to do something. No one's going to buy again that Chris Sale's coming back and Trevor Story's coming back. Some of these guys too that are, coming back from injuries, like Corey Kluber, I know they talked about was maybe starting to ramp things up. That's a guy you should be able just to move, especially if you make moves at the trade deadline. Just move on from him. The Kike Hernandezes of the world, Yu Chang, who everyone talked about was supposed to be a defensive, mastermind when he comes back from his injury. The guy's still batting $150 and made a costly error last night. Guy you should be able to move on from. Pablo Reyes has been a nice little piece, so maybe you keep him around. But again, if you make some trade deadline moves, you have to make some roster moves here and there, cut some guys. Reyes, Kluber, Kike, even, I saw Richard Blyers ramping up his rehab. He might be back within a couple of games. That's a guy you should be able to move on from, because Bernardino's earned a spot in that rotation as your second left-handed reliever with Joely Rodriguez. Plenty of guys you should be able just to cut bait with and not have a problem in doing so. So it's going to be interesting next couple of weeks. Obviously, we're not going to get too much into any more trade deadline stuff, because that's a week or 2 away. We'll get into that more when we get to it. But I just thought, obviously, go over the state of the team right now, kind of give a little thought on that. Because like I said, Alex Gore did have an interesting comment. I'm pretty sure, you and I both agreed that was, I don't want to say him pleading, because that's too strong of a case, but definitely putting in the back of management's mind to be like, hey, don't be afraid to make a move. We're right there. And I think too, he's probably don't do what you did last year, and have some guys kind of on the fence of what direction are we heading in. And maybe some guys kind of pack it in towards the end of the season, because things didn't end up going well at the trade deadline.
Yeah, I don't know. But at the end of the end, I like Cora fighting for himself and for
absolutely, like you said too, he could be fighting for his job for all we know. So I think obviously firing the manager is the easier decision than firing the chief baseball operator or of baseball operations. So
Yeah.
You got to kind of have eyes in the back of your head right now if you're Alex Cora.
I agree. On to hockey, and we have quite the story to start.
Starting off with a psychopath, for lack of a better term.
Truly one of the most shocking things I have ever seen. Alex Galchenyuk will now enter the NHL/NHLPA Player Assistance Program after a wild, in all caps, incident last week. He released a statement about it yesterday, apologizing and all the pleasantries and stuff like that when shit like this happens.
Yep.
Galchenyuk drunkenly berated officers after he allegedly crashed his BMW into a sign and hit a curb in Scottsdale, Arizona. He was walking around in an unsteady fashion and was seen lying down in the parking lot. In addition, the report stated that Galchenyuk also threatened to have 2 officers killed during the stop. The forward claimed to have connections in Moscow and said, I'm going to sick is in parentheses here, going to chop you, your wife, your daughter. He also reportedly stated, 1 phone call and you're all dead. Your whole family, your bloodline is dead. The officer, he directed his racist ire in the rant toward was a black man. So just add to the list of crazy shit this guy did.
Checking off boxes.
Said, I will kill you. I'm assuming that's the C word and either fucks or the F slur and your entire family. Was continuing derogatory meaning and threatening violence on the black officer until they arrived at the police station. And he told one officer he'd make a call to Russia and have the officer's wife and daughter's kidneys cut out. He was charged with private property hit and run, disorderly conduct, failure to obey, resisting arrest, and threatening or intimidating. The NHLPA has 60 days from the day of to decide whether to file a grievance. I see a lot of people, to his statement, understandably sending him well wishes that he gets the help he needs and gets better.
Gonna say play on the mental health card.
Me, I'm not as sympathetic here.
No, not in this case.
I'm sorry.
Nope. It's time. We've talked about this before when we have stuff like that. There's plenty of time and place for the mental health stuff. People deal with that. No problem there. But this is not, you don't get a get out of jail free card. This
is an unhinged man.
Absolutely.
To have this stuff happen while under the influence of alcohol, of course.
Mm-hmm.
He was just drunk. He didn't mean anything. It's not to be like, I hope he gets better. This man has issues besides alcohol with extreme violence and threats and racism. Chopping,
just checking off all the boxes,
taking kidneys out, gutting people, threatening hits on them.
I was just gonna say, I'd like to know what kind of connect, like, just there's a Russian mob.
That, like, when I see a statement like that, my impulse is not to hope the guy gets better. Obviously, I hope he does.
You figure it out, yeah.
My impulse is the guy should be in jail.
Lock the guy up, absolutely, yeah.
Forever.
Yep.
I don't care if he didn't kill anybody. He threatened to kill, cut out insides, and was aggressively racist while hammered after crashing into a curb and a sign.
Full on public indecency. And then some.
It's a mind-blowing story. Like 11 or 12 days after he signed a deal to spend his 3rd stint with the Coyotes, he is never going to play an NHL game again.
No, and at first, like when I was trying to find out about this, because I think he briefly mentioned it, briefly showed me something about it. I kind of just thought, I'm like, oh, it's just another guy making a dumb comment, or he did something, did something racist, or now has to. Nope, this is way worse than anything you could have absolutely thought of. Plus the racist thing, plus the comments and everything. So, I'm with you. Lock the guy up. Find a way to check his phone to see what connections he has to Moscow and probably some sort of mafia.
I don't even know.
And Russia, like
KHL.
That's what I mean. Like, how do you? Yeah, guys just got Putin on speed dial. Like,
yeah, everybody figured something was up when it was announced that his contract was being terminated. But this was unfathomable to think about. Just truly one of the most shocking, in the most disturbing ways, thing I've ever seen in my life. And I don't see why the NHLPA would file a grievance, because this is fucking deranged.
This
Like,
is all that is just that we have to do this type of thing. So just to put
I
it
don't
out
know,
there,
man.
we're gonna
We'll see, I
say,
guess.
yeah, there is
But
no way you can come back from
holy
this. So
shit.
it's just a bad look all around. If
One of the biggest draft busts of our lifetime, too.
Mhm.
Officially.
Mhm.
The guy's
Oh,
struggled for
now,
a while.
absolutely, yeah.
Been on like 8 teams, even for short periods sometimes. I mean, what a catastrophe. So for anybody who was not caught up on that story, or maybe all the details, now you are.
I would
Onto
love to know.
normal
Sorry,
hockey
real
things,
quick.
though.
I would love to know and again, it probably just comes down to the mental health side of it, but like, love to know the people's reasoning for being like, oh, I hope you figure it out. And I hope like you
It's
can.
because he's going into the player assistance program.
Okay.
And that is people's natural reactions, which I
All
get.
right.
And I hope he gets better too.
Mhm.
But that's not my first impulse.
No,
It's
absolutely
just
not.
when he does something like this.
No.
When it's
Like,
somebody like Carey Price or Spencer
if the
Knight who have
story,
gone
yeah,
in,
if the
or
story
Jakub
stopped
Vrana,
at drunk
when
driving,
it's something like that, someone with
Yeah.
like, I think Carey Price dealt with alcohol issues, like
yeah,
not threatening to kill people and throw hits on them
absolutely.
and cut people's kidneys out.
Yep.
Like it's a different scenario, and I get it, but I also don't.
Gets ramped up just a little more when those
yeah.
factors start to, for lack of a better term, factor into things.
Yeah, like holy shit.
Mhm.
The Prospects Challenge will be back this year. The Bruins will be participating with the usual cast of characters. In terms of the teams they play, I feel like they play the same 3 teams every year. They'll play on the 15th of September against Pittsburgh, then the next day against Montreal, and 2 days later against New Jersey. Speaking of New Jersey, the latest internal Bruins free agent to play elsewhere next season will be Tomas Nosek. He signed a 1-year, $1 million deal with New Jersey Devils today. I saw some people speculating that this could be because Michael McLeod could be involved in the 2018 World Juniors investigation and have, no chance of playing this year if he is involved in that. So maybe that's true. Maybe they're just looking for a good cheap penalty killer. And the Hockey Canada things sounds like we might have some more findings in that lately, so that could blow up the league a little bit and affect current players. So Nosek signs there. A guy I don't think either of us were expecting back. Takes a little bit of a pay cut, but I mean, it's fine. He'll play on a good team and he'll be useful, whether he's in like a 13th forward type of role or 4th line center. But your thoughts on Nosek?
I mean, we talked about it before this offseason. We kind of thought he was one of the guys that was probably going to go. Like, you got plenty of guys that can fill into that 4th line role. Like you said, it kind of stinks. You lose a guy that was a pretty good penalty killer for the Bruins. But again, like 4th line guy, like you do your time here, say thank you. You worked out pretty well. Now go out and get a contract somewhere else and play just as well as, and up to your role as you did here. So nothing too crazy. Like I can't get overly too high or too low on Nosek not being here.
Yeah. And the Zach Senyshyn saga is over in the NHL. He is going to Germany to play for the Schwenninger Wild Wings.
The hell of a team name.
Further proving the bust that once was, that is. Zach Senyshyn will take his talents to Germany. It did not work out. Bruins cleaned up some business. They signed Mikey DiPietro, Alec Regula, and Riley Walsh all to 1-year 2-way deals at the minimum $775K. Like that, they'll DiPietro will be in the minors, but we could see some NHL games for Regula and Walsh this year. They also signed Jesper Boqvist, which I was a little bit surprised about. I thought they got all their depth signings done, but Boqvist is a signing I like enough at veteran minimum. As a 23-year-old forward, can play any forward position. Not good at faceoffs, but can play some center if you need him to. He's a guy that's been buried in the bottom 6 and will be in the bottom 6 with the Bruins most of his time here. But there's enough skill there offensively to like this signing. So I'm okay with the Jesper Boqvist signing. Do you have any reactions to this deal when you saw it, or were you in the same camp? Like, oh, I thought they were done, but they weren't. So they had another depth piece.
Not the Boqvist one so much. Another goalie getting a 2-way contract. Does that stand out to you at all? Like, I just. No, okay.
He's gonna be in the AHL, ECHL unless he crushes it all year. So
all right, because we talked about it before. I'm still kind of in the boat of, again, if you want to free up some money, maybe Linus Ullmark's a guy. I mean, they've kind of come out now that you probably can't find anything for him.
They trade him.
So,
yeah.
Yeah, so that's why I was asking. It's like a couple of goalies on two-way contracts now. Does that kind of read anything into that? But all right, fair enough.
DiPietro was once a pretty good goalie prospect. He was a second rounder.
That's the
of
guy
the
they got in the
Canucks,
trade
but
from Vancouver, right?
Stanika, yeah.
Yeah.
He was the throw-in. The guy they wanted in that deal was the defenseman they got, Jonathan Myrenberg, who I believe is gonna play in Sweden again this year, if not
Okay.
come to Providence. So he's a project guy. Will take a while to get to the NHL if he does, but
Gotcha.
I think DiPietro is more of a throw-in there, and now some AHL and ECHL goaltending depth. The Boquist thing is fine. I wonder how much he ends up in the mix for some time of the third line to start the season. If he doesn't win a spot, we'll see. But there's enough skill there to like, and he's very young, so I don't mind it at all. Just didn't expect it. Mark McLaughlin and Ian Mitchell signed minimum $775K deals, 2-way 1-year deal for McLaughlin, 1 year, 1 way for Mitchell, so he can go through waivers if he gets sent down. So something to monitor there. And we do have somewhat of an update on Patrice Bergeron, as Dom Tiano, prospect expert, cap expert, whatever you want to call him, said not evidence that a return is imminent, but Patrice Bergeron has been seen working out hard in Boston. I don't know how much that is happening the last 2 weeks now, or when this started or ended his time here, working out, as his wife recently had a 4th child. So, but promising, working out in the area, obviously lives here, has a place here, but promising, and hopefully, leads credence to the fact that he will be coming back, because they are strapped right now, but they can make it all work.
I'm wondering at this point if he's just waiting kind of for everybody else to sign. Obviously, they still got to figure out what they're doing with Swayman, and who's the other one that's in Frederick, right? Yeah. What they're doing with their hearings and stuff like that. I wonder if he's just going to wait that out and then just kind of whatever the Bruins have left in cap space, give me that, or give me something, respectable. I'll come back for another 1-year contract and try to win this thing. That's kind of where I'm at with it.
Same. It does give me a little bit more optimism. Instead of like the 30-70, 30 being yes, 70 being no camp, I'm back on like the 50-50. And my vibes are getting a little higher for him coming back, but we'll see.
Did your vibes go up or down at all? I don't mean to cut you off, but I saw over the weekend, I think it was whatever Brad Marchand promotional thing he was doing. I saw some people lose it on Twitter, like, oh, he's got the A on his sweater. So that must mean
some people thought it was the C too.
Oh, did they? Okay.
I wonder if it was the C and they were trying to hide it. It doesn't really mean much to me, but
okay.
We'll see.
I just found that funny.
I saw someone say
people
maybe
reading
he's got
everything.
the A on because Bergeron's retiring and McAvoy is going to be the captain. I don't know if that's the case. I doubt it.
Okay. Yeah.
But that was pretty funny. We've got no pre-arbitration deals for Swayman and Frederick yet. We did have our first case come out today with the details. Ilya Samsonov is looking for $4.9 million from the Maple Leafs, and the team is looking to give him 2.4. So let's see where that goes.
Figure that one out. Yeah. That's quite a ways off.
A lot of people were throwing out the comparable of Tanner Jeannot's new deal. He signed for 2 years and $5.33 million, which is about 2.665 for Frederick. I think that's towards the upper limit, especially with their cap
steep
for Frederick. I saw some people throwing out Ross Colton too. Trent Frederick is not going to get paid $4 million. Like, I don't know where people are pulling that from. That's bizarre. One guy I think's deal is comparable to Frederick. I think Frederick's a better player. Is Brett Howden's today that he signed with Vegas, 2 years, $1.9 million per. I think if that's what Howden's getting, Frederick should get like 2.3 on a 2-year deal. So I think like 2.5 is probably the max for Frederick. Like 1.75 is the lowest if they somehow got him dirt cheap. But I'm looking at a 2.2, $2.3 million range for Frederick. If I had to put a pin in it right now, are you in the same camp, or do you think he could go a little higher?
No, I'd probably sit him around like 2.2, somewhere between 2.2, 2.5, like you said. That'd be more than enough, I think. And he should know that too. Like, you're not going to break the bank for a guy that had a great year last year, from an expectation wise. But he's got to know, like, I'm a third line, bottom 6 type guy where I'm not going to get a ton of money, whether he wants to or not.
A lot of players his age are getting bridge deals too. We'll get to some of those, including like Brett Howden in a second. And the thing with Frederick too, like if Bergeron comes back, he needs a little bit of that change. Frederick
Yeah,
gets
that's you got to think that's
and
in the back of their
Swayman
minds too. Yeah.
Swayman is looking at minimum 3,
Mhm.
probably more minimum like 3.25, max 4. On like a 2 or 3 year deal, but we'll see there as well. It's been pretty quiet on both of their fronts, so we'll see what happens. But I do think they'll get deals done before arbitration. Some other news around the league: Dave Haxtell signed a 3-year extension from Kevin Weeks on his second account because he got hacked for a MacBook scammer
Oh no, did he
last week.
really?
Yeah, so he's
I
on his
didn't see
second
that.
account.
Damn it.
Dave Haxall earns a 3-year extension, well deserved, to stick around coaching the Kraken. Connor Bedard signed his entry-level contract on his 18th birthday. Pretty cool present.
Yep. Happy birthday.
Yeah, happy birthday. And around the league, we saw Gabe Vilardi sign a bridge deal. I think he's going to exceed this value right away. I think in the right role, which he will get, Gabe Vilardi is going to be really good in Winnipeg, and honestly could end up being their 1C of the future with whatever happens to Mark Scheifele. I think Gabe Vilardi can be that good. Talked about Brett Howden, 2 years, 3.8, 1.9 million per. Matthias Maccelli, who hates shooting the puck, but loves to make just ridiculous passes. Great playmaker, signs a 3-year bridge deal with the Coyotes for 10.275 million, so around like 3.4 per. Oliver Wahlstrom signs his qualifying offer, 1 year, $874,125. Ross Colton, who was traded to Colorado at the draft, signs 4x16 with Colorado. Ty Dellandrea a little while back signed a 1 year, $900K deal to stick around with the Dallas Stars. Leo Carlson, number 2 overall pick, signed his entry-level contract. Alex Newhook signed a 4-year extension with the Canadiens at 11.6 million, 2.9 per. Keandre Miller, another guy that's going to exceed his value right away, signs for 2 years and 7.744 with the Rangers. Such a steal. He's very good and only going to get better. Philip Zadina, who bet on himself and agreed to mutually terminate his contract with the Red Wings, left about $4.8 million on the table, signs a 1 year, $1.1 million prove-it deal with the San Jose Sharks. Should get a decent amount of playing time there. Nils Höglander signs a 2-year, $2.2 million extension with Vancouver. You've probably seen it at this point, and I did a TikTok on it, but Alex DeBrincat finally gets moved, goes to Detroit. For Dominic Kulik, Donovan Zabrango, who's around from around the Ottawa area, so a little homecoming for him. The young prospect defenseman. A 2024 conditional first and a 2024 fourth. Detroit can choose to send Boston's 2024 first or their own first to Ottawa. If Boston's is top 10, the Bruins can choose to send that pick or their 2025 first. I imagine they would send their 2025 in that case.
Yeah, I would think so. Yeah, that's a nice little clause right there.
If they are in the top 10 next year, that adds some intrigue to the draft for the Bruins next year. Obviously, it would suck to be a top 10 team picking in the draft, but for the prospect pool's sake, it'd be a breath of fresh air. So something to monitor there.
Yep.
But I don't see the Bruins having that bad of a season. If that happens, Detroit has their pick of what to send either way, whether it be theirs or Boston's 2024 or 2025 first. DeBrincat then signed a 4-year, $31.5 million extension. If he plays as he should, that's a steal. This guy can score 40 goals, has great speed, amazing shot. Just the type of guy they need to really up the ante there and get into the playoffs, get aggressive there. Don't think they really gave up a ton in this deal, and I think it's a win for them in the short term, but we'll see what happens with those picks. And Kubalik and Sabrango, how they work out there. And last but not least, Will Borgen, the former Sabres defenseman, signs a 2-year, $5.4 million extension with the Kraken. Do you have any thoughts on any of these bits of news?
Not particularly. The DeBrincat one remind me, because we briefly talked about this off air. I can't remember if you kind of what your overall thought was on that trade. I don't know if maybe I'm mistaking it for something else. I don't know if you thought maybe that was kind of the return was weird, or what was your whole kind of process? Because you tried guessing that. That was what it was.
Yeah,
you tried predicting it to me, right? Yeah.
Wrong.
Yeah. Well, no, if Boston sends one of their draft picks, you end up getting that part right, don't you? Didn't you say that? You thought it was?
I thought it was going to be Detroit just sending Boston's 2024 first in no conditions. I thought that was going to be one of the main pieces. But a little condition there. But yeah, I I kind of wondered too if a guy like Joe Valeno, who's unsigned right now as an RFA, was going to be a part of the deal. If Uniten Berggren was going to go, I still don't know how to pronounce his name. I've heard Jonathan Berggren, but one of the guys I listen to, Chris Peters, who's a prospect expert, calls him Uniten. So
All right.
don't know how that pronunciation works, but I trust Chris. So I was kind of wondering if Berggren or Valeno would go there. Obviously, with the Zadina situation, he wasn't going to go there. Even though, guy once highly regarded, I thought Philip Zadina was going to be a star coming out of the 2018 draft. Hasn't quite turned out that way, but yeah, Detroit, this is a move you have to make if you can to hopefully get back in the playoffs because they want that place rocking.
Absolutely.
They got a wave of young talent. I just don't know if the defensive goaltending is there quite yet. Defense has some question marks for me, and I don't know if Ville Husso will be the guy, but as we've seen in years past, you don't need this amazing goalie all the time to make a deep run. So
just gotta get hot at the right time.
Could be one of those years where a guy like Vasilevsky carries you. Could be a year where Aiden Hill wins you a cup. So that's the two-sided coin you have to evaluate there. But I think that is going to wrap it up for episode 151. Thank you so much for listening. We are back. We'll be back for regularly scheduled programming unless anything comes up for the coming months. So look forward to that. New and old listeners, thank you for listening. You can find us wherever you find your podcasts. You can find us on Twitch and YouTube as well on the Full Press Coverage Twitch and YouTube channels. Find us on Twitter at Mike_Cratty, at Ryan_Salvaggio, and the show at Selling Cratty Pod. We're also on TikTok, kicking up the production a little bit there. We'll see what happens in the coming weeks and stuff. But yeah, you can find us wherever you find your podcast and all that good stuff I just previously mentioned. Stay safe, stay healthy, be nice to people, all that good stuff. And we will talk